slowly happening. It's getting there eventually, and there's link workers there that are linking people together, but not being afraid to, as a small organization, to go and knock on the door of the GP surgery and say, look, we're here, this is what we do. And yes, it won't always result in a positive outcome, but it's going to help, and continually having that conversation. And there's a really good point raised around actually talking to med students, because it's the frame of reference as well. So talking to med students, so their frame of reference to consider social prescribing, green care, then actually when they go out into the workplace, it's going to be on their radar. So that's quite nice. And then the role of the network around local advocacy as well. So I think that was really important. So providing this voice and platform for what is delivered, and pooling together. We talked about evidence a little bit as well, and pooling together the evidence base that we have. It's relevant, it's respected, and we need to put it out there. And I think that the network can do that as a whole. Yeah, there's quite a lot there.
Thank you very much. I think we'll pause if that's all right. I mean, what I want to say is hopefully you can send me your notes, everyone who's facilitated, because I think this is going to be really useful for the coordination group when we meet and to talk about, what are the key lessons and ideas here. So for the other facilitators, looking at my watch, can you perhaps concentrate on any new items or different items that came out in your discussions? Amelia, would you like to go next?
Yep, sorry, trouble unmuting. I think we've covered a lot of the same areas. Resource sharing was a big one, and one of the resource sharing ideas I don't think's come up was about sharing volunteers. And so you might have somebody who's really great who comes to volunteer for your organisation, but you can't make use of their skills, but knowing that you could pass them on to somebody else. We also talked about sharing practical skills, and Martin from the Matty project had a really good example that he had lots of horticultural skills that he could share, but what he really needed on the Matty project allotment was somebody who was really good at woodwork to help with some of the work around there. We talked about the importance of actually physically meeting maybe at different organisations' venues, because and to be able to see what their work's been doing, and that meeting people more informally face to face on an allotment or in a garden, it would build trust, and it would be a really good way to find the people that you really get on with, and that would be a good basis for building future collaborations. And we also talked about, in terms of promotion, we talked about it's really going to be important to promote the Green Care Network to colleagues in statutory organisations. So we talked about social prescribers, but we also talked about adult social services, the connector workers who are in children's services, community connectors. So it's about, I think it'll be really important to get the word out to them as well. And we also talked a little bit about the National Academy for Social Prescribing. Trying to be really concise, but if anyone from my group thinks that I've missed out anything really important that we talked about, please jump in now. Okay, I'll take it that I covered everything, and I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Amelia. Leslie, over to you.
Yeah, much the same as everyone else. I think we really focused on, we've got a good website, good start to a website, but there were other things we thought we could put on it, such as a directory of contacts that is available to all of us so that we can point people in the right direction. We very much focused on it being a hub and not a big organisation. So, we were a bit concerned about funding going in and different things. But we also talked about expanding the Facebook page, linking that into all of our organisations, and also possibly tapping into other areas like the Royal Horticultural Society and Grow Wild, all those kind of things, to get the evaluation from them as to what's happening with green care projects out there. And that's probably the biggest bit. We did have a question about whether Volunteer Norfolk could add a green care module onto their volunteer passport. That was probably the biggest idea that came out, I think. So
I can take that back to my colleague Claire, but yeah, a green care module, I will suggest that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Very good.
That's us.
Thanks very much, Leslie. And Catherine, I think.
Hello, sorry. So much has already been said, hasn't it? I've been flicking through thinking, oh, they haven't been said that yet. And then someone mentioned social prescribing. So it doesn't leave me a lot to go through. But what I'll pick out is some of the ideas around the networking was moving forward in the future when the pandemic is over, when we can all see each other again. There was certainly a feeling coming out that we would like to be face to face again in the future, and being able to see other people's projects and what they get up to. The very nature of the individuals who are involved with this network is liking to be outdoors and out and about. So I think it's quite important that we do keep that element there, but have that balance also to be able to have virtual networks and get-togethers to be able to accommodate those who aren't able to travel very far. And for like training events, for example, it can be really useful way of engaging and including those. And that was an important point that the group came up with, is that making sure that we are inclusive, and so everyone is able to access the network as well. Funding was a big topic that came up in our group discussions, and how do we support organisations who are part of the Green Care Network? So we think this has been a fantastic opportunity for organisations to partner up, to be able to go for bids and pots of money together. So if there could be those opportunities within network and events to say, we hear about this pot of money, this bid, or people are able to come along and say, oh, we need to partner up with someone. Does anyone want to be able to come in with us on this project? That would be an ideal opportunity. Green Care Festival, questions put forward. Could it be opened up to people outside of Norfolk to be able to get ideas of what is going on across the country, to be able to be a part of the Green Care Festival? And is making sure that it's got a family feel to it as well. So having kids involved, to engage, get them whilst they're young and get them intrigued around nature and green care, I thought came up. And one of the really good points was that it sounds like a really good weekend having a green festival.
Great, thank you. And Anne, I think if you're there somewhere, anything from you?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. My group had several people, or at least two people who were at the starting up community projects, allotments, and somebody taking on a role in a community garden. So there was quite a lot of trying to explain what we were about to people, and Gary was there from a sort of more of a garden farm, community farm position. So there were a lot of people in our group who felt the need to be able to connect with other people who were doing similar things, and to learn from them, to share resources, and perhaps to barter, not badger, and barter tools and things like that, and time, and so it was very interesting, because unlike your other groups where you're talking about prescribing social care and organising funding for big pots of money, we were much more, basic community, getting on in the local community. The two people in the group who were from more established organisations and were providing services, they had a different focus, but it was very interesting to me that we had people at a very early level, and I'm one of those. I'm even embryonic starting anything, so that need to set up subgroups and get to know what each other's about. There was Gary did volunteer to help with that kind of thing if it was needed, and he was particularly interested in hearing about the sorts of things we were doing, people sharing their projects and having discussion afterwards, which sounds very much like we intend to do, but there was support for that.
We are quite actually
the other.
With
Sorry, I know that was.
I keep talking.
Carry on. Yeah.
And the other thing that we talked about was sort of trying to find support for people at different levels. The people who were running organisational things, and the people that were coming along
to it, you know, the sort of trying, I suppose it's what you were talking about, linking people through the organisations, and perhaps getting some basic funding from just some small amounts of money to help things like the food farming initiative. On the terms of promotion, so that was the networking really, but we had the idea of having perhaps an ambassador, or you know, somebody knowledgeable who could speak on particular aspects, which I think does fit in with what somebody else has said, but they've called it something different. Shall I stop there?
That's great, Anne. Thank you very much, and particular thank you to you, Anne, because you stepped in at the last minute as a facilitator, because the person who was going to do it unfortunately had an emergency this afternoon and couldn't be with us. So thanks very much, Anne. Yeah, for my group, I'll keep it very brief because I think a lot of it has been covered. A couple of things that I think really struck me were let's not completely go back to the way things were. Let's make the most of the learning we've had about online networking and use that appropriately. And you know, the idea of using Google Docs to share resources and things like that came up. Look really at the advantages of doing online things, perhaps as large gatherings, which aren't as practicable actually face to face. Looking at, I think, smaller groups that have got a thematic focus or a geographical focus was supported, but also someone mentioned client groups, you know, e.g. veterans or young people, actually having groupings of within the network to come together around those sort of areas of interest as well. In terms of promotion, yes, I think support for the idea of a Green Care Festival, but a bit of a worry about the costs and the effort involved in putting it on. And I think finally, what I'd mention is the importance of perhaps tying into organisations like the UEA, horticultural colleges, and government policy in order to sort of promote the research and testing out of green care, bringing those results to fore, if you like, in the public eye. That, I think I'll pause there. If I could ask facilitators, thank you, Ian, for what you've done today. If you wouldn't mind jotting down a few notes and sending them through to me, what I'll do is I'll then circulate those around at least the coordination group, if not more widely. And I think the next step is for the coordination group to come together and to try and make some sense of all that. I'm sure it would be a difficult thing. And to really sort of come back to the membership in its entirety with some thoughts about how we move from here. Hope that's okay. To finish off, I've got a couple of, well, I've got a poll for you to do. I'm interested to hear what you think about today, notwithstanding all the difficulties we've had. Here we go. Voting time, folks. How did you rate today's meeting? You've got a single choice from those 5.
We can't see it.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm
I
pressing
do.
my
You
button.
have to launch the poll.
I need some training, don't I? I need some training. There you go. How do you rate today's meeting?
Oh.
Says you voted, but it's not showing up. What do I do?
I haven't finished yet.
Oh, right, still going. Okay. Great.
Mine doesn't have the, it won't let you click on submit.
Oh dear.
Oh, no,
Mine's stuck, but if you keep scrolling down, there's 4 questions.
I've just discovered all the other questions.
Yes, sorry, I should have explained it. Yeah. There are 4 questions in this poll. Okay, are you all done?
Hang on.
No, still going.
It goes.
Okay. 89% have voted, I think, so we're close to the finish line. You can see the results for yourself. I won't comment on them, but thank you for taking part. Again, that's something we can feed back and think about in terms of future arrangements. thank you all very much for sparing your time and for joining us this afternoon. I've really enjoyed seeing you all, if not properly meeting you all yet. Let's stay in touch. It will be obviously online for the time being. I would just make a plug that we've got the first of our focused workshops next week. I'm going to be issuing a newsletter within the next couple of weeks, which will have the remainder of those workshops for the next few months. And some of those I think look really good. We've got a guy who's just about to publish a book about urban playground, Tim Gill. Some of you may have heard of him. Very much into natural play and making the environment child friendly. He's agreed to come along and talk about that book and some of the issues it raises for planning and design within the urban environment, which is a particular interest of mine. And we've got others sort of in the way of being developed. So for the moment, thank you all again. And I think we'll end it there. And maybe we should just have a little quick clap for Captain Tom, shall we?
6 o'clock, is it?
And the frontline workers.
Thanks, Nigel.
Thank you all. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Nigel.
Bye.
Goodbye.